Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Malcolm here of Malcolm Tolman VO. I wanted to take a moment to do a quick video today to talk to you guys about something that I hear about a lot in the VO industry, and that is Mel Blanc's infamous Wabbit season, duck season scene. Now, if you spend any bit of time in VO, you're going to hear Mel Blanc's name a lot because A, he was an incredibly nice guy, B, he was a phenomenal actor from his radio years to his Looney Tune years, one of my favorites. C, he did a lot of stuff to get this industry founded, and D, my own personal one, because he's a bit of a hard luck story who started out just kind of pleading for a job with no real money and stuff like that, and kind of worked his way up, and I have a lot of respect for someone who did that. But this specific scene you hear a lot as sort of the pinnacle of you've made it as a character actor when you can do this. Now, in this scene, in case you need a refresher on your classic Looney Tunes scenes, because you should, because they're amazing shows, in this scene, we see Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny trying to convince Elmer Fudd to shoot the other. This has been a skit that's gone on a number of times, but in this case, Daffy Duck runs into a sign that says, duck hunting season, open. Now, of course, Daffy, thinking quickly, runs off and dresses himself up as Bugs Bunny and starts imitating Bugs Bunny in front of Elmer Fudd. Then Elmer Fudd turns around to see Bugs Bunny come in dressed up as Daffy Duck and imitates Daffy, and the two argue with each other, and this is a funny scene, but it is like multiplied by a million when you realize that Mel Blanc is doing both of these voices at the same time, and he somehow manages to make them all sound unique. The Daffy acting as Bugs sounds neither like Daffy or Bugs, and the Bugs acting like Daffy sounds neither like Bugs, Daffy, nor Daffy acting as Bugs. I mean, that's 4 unique voices, and that takes a ridiculous amount of skill, and I in no way am going to demean how much skill and amazing acting that is, because that is amazing. But at the same time, I don't think it's quite as impossible as people say it is. And I want to take a moment today to sort of discuss how I would do it and how I tend to do this as a warm-up exercise, because I think if you like doing character acting, it's good to get your voice out there and kind of stretch it and try out new things. And I think this is a great one for making new voices and just teaching you how to sort of analyze your voices and understand how they work. So I'm going to give a very brief summary of how this all works, because this actually is a very simple trick. Then I'm going to go into a bit more detail as to how it works and the details of it, because just working off intuition doesn't work for everyone, and there is actually a lot of detail that comes into your intuition actory. Actory. That is the word now, actory. Into your acting on your intuition. And third, I'm just going to give you some examples of voices that I do, and we're going to try and have them make fun of each other, because hey, why not? I like making fun of myself. So starting off with the very, very basics. How do you make your voice sound? How do you imitate yourself? The answer is actually quite simple. You just do a bad imitation of yourself. You just act as a bad actor. Now, I can guarantee that every voice actor at some point has done an imitation of someone, and I can guarantee that a number of those times they've been bad imitations. So we know how to do bad imitations. So all that we're really doing is we're doing bad imitations of ourselves. So going into a bit more detail about this, because this is actually a little more complicated than just that, although if that's enough for you, good. You can skip ahead to the examples and can have fun and send me videos of how you do it. I mean, I want to see this, it's kind of fun. But going into details about this, you have to understand, and this is how I tend to do it, that not everyone has great range in their voice. So what I tend to do as a trick is I tend to try and think of the voice that I'm doing, the character that I'm doing, try to imagine what their limitations are to their voice. And then what you want to do is that, let's say you have voice A and voice B, you want to get voice A to be 25-35% closer to voice B, but not 50%. Because if you get 50%, then voice B pretending to be voice A will sound exactly like voice A pretending to be voice B. So you want to get close enough that you recognize it, but not close enough that it sounds exactly like halfway there, because you want to have 4 voices, not 3 voices. Now, there are tricks to this. You want to figure out any kind of vocal stuttering, Daffy, Wabbit season and stuff like that, and Bugs is the, what's up, Doc? I mean, once you get those two things, like, even with those horrible, horrible impressions, you still know I'm talking about Daffy and Bugs, because it's recognizable. But then on top of that, there's also, how the voice changes. Is it a high voice? Is it a low voice? Is it like, how does it change? How does the voice change with it? And then once you get that down, you get catchphrases. And I kind of cheat that into the vocal patterns with Bugs Bunny's "What's up, Doc?" Because everybody knows "What's up, Doc?" No matter who says it, you're thinking Bugs Bunny. If someone is a well-known character and has a well-known catchphrase, this makes it a lot easier. But if you're working with characters that nobody knows, you'll have a bit more work on your hands. Now, I think the amount of times you're going to get a job where you have to imitate yourself, the amount of times you get a job where you have to imitate yourself alone is very rare. But the amount of times you get a job where you have to imitate yourself in the first episode, that would be very, very rare, I think. But you never know. So let's be safe than sorry. So let's give some examples to kind of show this better. Now, for your starting out voices, I suggest getting as opposite voices as you can, because, like, I can do my good and confident teen voice, and I can do my sort of self-conscious teen voice, but they're so similar that it's hard to tell, and you don't have as much range. So I suggest getting as far, like, for your first times, get as far part of voices as you can, because it is hard to do, and it's going to take some practice, and you want to get the hang of it, and it's a lot easier and a lot less depressing if you get voices that are far, far apart. So let's start off with,
We'll do my nerd voice, because my nerd voice is a kind of high-pitched voice and got like a very recognizable lisp to it.
And then we'll do the Dark Lord voice, because it's a much slower and deeper voice with a lot of gravel and breath to it.
So these voices are very, very far apart. They're about as far apart as I can probably do. Well, I can probably do a bit further, but those are the most recognizable voices that I have that I can do far apart. So let's try and get, halfway. So
if I was a nerd talking about that stupid Dark Lord, I mean, he's just going on and he's just going, "Oh, I want you to destroy the people. I want you to, and I want them all to fear me."
A, be very careful you don't destroy your vocal cords, because doing new voices, it is possible to go a little too far. But you notice what I did there was that the nerd would what would the nerd recognize? Well, he would recognize that the Dark Lord has
a dark and gravelly voice,
and that's a lot deeper than his voice. And of course that his psychopathic tendencies and personality come out. So for the geek doing the Dark Lord, I figured,
he's a geek. He's going through puberty. His voice isn't really able to do those low and sultry tones yet. So I wanted to keep it still a little bit high up there.
But I wanted to add in that gravel as best as he could. And he's going to be really forcing it because he's he's trying. He's trying really hard. The geek really tries a lot. But if I want to do the other way around, because this is the important part. This is why we don't go all the way down. If I want to do the Dark Lord doing the geek, now,
the Dark Lord has a very deep and slow voice. If he was to talk about the nerd, he would say, "That fool, how he just sits there and he's like, oh, clever, smart stuff. It's just so despicable."
Now, things that are easy to copy are things like a lisp. A stutter sometimes can be easy to copy, a little harder than a lisp.
If you won't pronounce your W well and stuff,
that's also pretty easy to copy. Things that aren't easy to copy for people is the range or the speed. Speed is really hard because a lot of us aren't aware of our speed, and that's a very important one. So the Dark Lord would probably still talk slower, and he wouldn't be able to get up as high and squeaky as the geek is, but he would try to copy the lisp, because
knowing that the lisp is the most awesome part of his voice.
And now you notice that
the Dark Lord pretending to be the nerd,
and the nerd
pretending to be the Dark Lord,
they sound different. Even though it's the same voice doing the same comparison of voices, there's still enough range between the two that they don't sound exactly the same. And that's the trick that I find a lot of people mess up on, is that they try to get that 50%, not that 30%. And therefore, when they do it the other way around, they realize they only have 3 voices, they don't have 4 voices. But you have to be aware of, if you talk like this, and remember, we're voice actors, we have spent years training our voices to get that high and low range. I mean, like, we know how to make our voices do random things, so we're kind of used to this. But your average, everyday person will not know how to do this. So we can have a bit more, put the blocks on there and try and think of what is the hardest part of the voice to do, what's the easiest part of the voice to do. If it's easy, try to transfer it over. If it's hard, realize that the other character might struggle with it. once you have this down, you can have a lot more fun. Like, okay, let's take two more. We will take
My lizard voice.
and my mad professor. So, for the mad professor doing the lizard. Now, the lizard person, he is a bit strange and he has a very gravelly voice. So, it's a little hard to actually do this one because it's a hard voice to begin with. But I would try to copy the talking in the back of the neck. So, it's a bit like,
Oh, I can't be.
oh wow, that is a hard one. See, again, like even doing this off the top of my head, it gets hard sometimes.
We will try to do this properly, but it would be really suffering hard. And in a sense, that can also be kind of comical because it is difficult and he's really struggling to sound like he's doing it right. At the same time, the lizard trying to sound like the mad professor, he would probably change his accent and try to be like, oh, I cannot believe this. Oh, how smart and clever I am. And maybe I will try to throw in some higher pitched things to kind of copy his high pitched insanities.
Again, that one's a trickier one. Doing this on the fly, people. So we'll do one more. Okay. Let's do business Jenkins. Jenkins, we gotta get some money in here real fast. This is a fast-talking salesman, and we gotta get the money in, and we gotta get the business in. And what's kind of a good contrast to a fast-talking businessman? We go for the... Dude. Like, chill out, man. Cuckoo-ca-choo, man. Cuckoo-ca-choo. So, if I was talking like a surfer boy, and I was like, man, that businessman, he's just like, money, 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 and it's just, I can't really talk as fast as he can, but I'm gonna try and, fit it in there. Maybe put a bit of his accent in, but it's not that easy to do, man, because he's just, whoa, man, he's just way out there, and he needs to chill out, dude. Not everybody's all about the money, 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 and, oh, we gotta get the big bucks in here, man. Some of us just want to kind of chill and be all nice and meditational-like. At the same time, this Jenkins guy, he's gonna go and he's gonna be like, kids these days, they all want to go on their cell phone thingies and do their meditation yogi-wogi things, and I don't really understand. They're all kind of like, chill, man, chill. I don't really understand these kinds of people, Jenkins. Jenkins, tell me what they understand. I don't really know what they're going to be talking about with all their chakras and, oh, I am one with the world. I sniff trees for a living. Sorry. Now, you see, though, that we have now 4 voices for each of these characters. And that's actually another good reason to do this warm-up exercise, because not only have we learned to analyze our own character voices a little bit better, but we've also learned how to make new voices. So now I have, 6 new voices. I had to do math in my head there for a second. 6 new voices that I didn't have before. So if I want to have a sort of misfit Dark Lord and be like,
I don't really understand why the other Dark Lords, they don't respect me so.
Or even more like,
I try to be evil, yet for some reason they just don't respect me like I should be.
see, I can do a new character now. I can do a few new characters. Maybe the one's more like a thug character. Maybe the other is like a evil genius baby. You never really know. But that's why I think this is a really good one to practice out on. I suggest doing it on your free time. Maybe not do it on the job, but at the same time, I think it's a good one to practice, and I don't think it's as impossible as people say it is. So that was my little demonstration. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and if you guys do it yourselves, I'd love to see your attempts to do it. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and keep on acting. Ciao!